Welcome to Heart Collaborations, where we explore the heart of wellness, mental and emotional well-being, relationships, personal passions, and thriving parenthood. Hi, I'm Annette.
And I'm Anita. Collectively, we have over 50 years in the educational and mental health arenas. Whether you're looking for information, personal stories, or just a place to feel seen and heard, you're in the right place. Join us as we dive into conversations that inspire, empower, help you grow, and add a little laughter to your life.
Hey, we want to thank you for being with us here at Heart Collaborations. And today we're talking about really a pretty important topic. It's avoiding back to school drama, a parent guide to connection and success. And wow, I know parents are like, their ears are tuning in because they're like, wait a minute, I can avoid some back to school drama. Let me in on that.
You know, I'm over here giggling because I'm like, I'm not ready for that. I am not ready for that drama.
I know. So we've got some great tips for you today as far as things that we can do. We're right at that week to 2 week mark out for a lot of people for going back to school. And so, yeah, before we dive into it, though, we always want to say a big hey and thank you to Rob Bliss at the Meeting Place.
Yes. It's a great place to collaborate, grow, and really educate, because during lunch there's a lot of lunch and learns. Mm-hmm. Also, he does also have a library.
Yeah, like how many books? Like 500 and something
no,
books?
it's like over 1,200 books.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
okay. He's
got a lot of books. And if you are an author or thinking about writing a book, mm-hmm. this is a place to launch it.
Right.
Like several
I've met
of the authors.
So many people who have written books here.
I know. We said we're going to write a book.
Let's do it.
We're going to write a book.
Maybe eventually. So this is a workspace, a collaboration space. They have nighttime events as well. They just had a comedy hour this past Friday. I missed it, but I heard it was great.
It was great. Oh, packed house.
Let's
get into it.
Let's do it.
So,
well, let me start with this, okay? Mm-hmm. So 25% of kids going back to school experience some type of, anxiety or emotions about school stress, okay? Mm-hmm. About school starting, right?
I want to say it's probably a little bit higher, but I don't know. I mean, I'm like, I've asked both of my kids, they're ready to go back to school. Uh-huh. I'm like, y'all are ready?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for the drama of like, wake up,
Well, even the kids that are excited about going, there's still that transition, especially mm-hmm. if they're moving to a new campus or new grade level where, it's that unknown factor, right?
Right.
And then also it's their work. And so I know what it's
mm-hmm.
like when I get to take a vacation. Usually everything's going great. And then on the way back from that vacation, what happens? You and the spouse start having some arguments over nothing except that you're going back into the real world where there's stress,
Yes, all that like
relaxation.
Yeah, all that relaxation.
You're leaving it behind.
Yeah. I mean, and something about that is like, okay, you've been relaxing, not thinking about things, right? Uh-huh. Kind of an escape. Mm-hmm. And then you get to the real world about reality really hits about
where those demands are coming in, right?
Well,
expectations, demands.
I'm thinking about junior high because I'm going to be having a junior high, but
awesome.
I'm thinking about all the junior high stuff that happens, right? Mm-hmm. About like, am I wearing the right outfit? Like, where do people dress mm-hmm. in junior high? Mm-hmm. I was talking to a friend of mine, and her kid has always been in a school where they wear uniforms. Uh-huh. So they've been practicing this summer how to like pick out his own clothes.
Nice.
So that when school starts, he can pick out his own clothes. Uh-huh. But she said that has really been a big challenge as far as like trying to get him to even think about what he's wearing.
I love that. I love that example. And I just give kudos to that parent that they are thinking ahead and they're working with their student on how to get prepared so that it's not such a big transition, mm-hmm. right? And transitions are okay, and feeling anxiety is okay, and feeling a little bit of stress is okay. That's all a part of life. But we want to give you some ideas about what you can do to help mm-hmm. with that, okay?
Yeah.
To reduce that drama.
And I was going to say a quote from Dr. Lisa Damore is, transitions are the training ground for resilience.
Amen. Preach it.
You know, and I was thinking about this. I was like, it's in transition, right?
Right.
Any type of transition, whether it's getting engaged, getting married, finishing college, going to college, going to junior high, going to elementary, going to kindergarten for the first time, you know, all these transitions that cause all these emotions, you know, and if we can know how to navigate that, then we're going to be set up for success.
Yeah, I was listening to a meditation on the way here, and today's meditation was, I am exactly where I am supposed to be.
I love that. That is one of my favorite things.
I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. And if we take that and we apply that in those transitions, well, every day in our life, but in those transitions, just realizing that there are ups and downs and stress and fun and all those kinds of things. And it's really about riding that wave, right? It's not about fighting it, but it's about riding it. If we try to fight that wave, what happens? We just get tumbled around. We get smashed to the sand at the bottom. But if we will try to ride it, just realize that it comes and goes and it ebbs and flows, then we're going to be a lot better. Well, let's talk about some of the big ones, and that's routines. And parents, you can be being proactive by beginning to 1 to 2 weeks out, begin to establish and reconnect with those school norm routines. And so the big ones are, you got the morning routine, you got the bedroom routine, you got the study homework routine. And so we're going to be breaking those down and exploring those and making some suggestions for those.
Yeah. And I think once we have a routine, I'm speaking as a mom,
right?
You know, that the stress level goes low.
It helps, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It really helps when you don't have to think about what you're wearing because it was planned the night before, you know. But to the stress level, as far as, well, one, we're already stressed because we're like going to school, right? We're worried. We're worrying about how the day's going to be. Am I going to the right class? So imagine that on top of just a worry of, you know, the morning routine if you don't have one.
Right. And I want to, you know, when I was listening to you, I thought of something. I want to make sure that we as adults, as caregivers, as parents, that we don't minimize the feelings that they're having, because school is their work. And just as we have stresses for work, they have stresses for work. So we want to make sure we don't minimize those feelings. We want to acknowledge them. And we'll get into a little bit about some things that we can do to help support them emotionally as we go through this. One of the things that I thought about as we were planning for this is, you know, they have, like, you can get them, I'll just drop a name, at the dollar store, but I'm sure there are lots of stores that you can get just the small little whiteboards.
Yeah.
You know, they're about what is that? About a 10 by 12 or something like that?
An 8 by 10. Yeah, okay. An 8 by 10.
Little whiteboard. And you might think about getting a permanent marker. And those basic things that are going to be a part of your daily routine, your morning routine, every night, every day, your nighttime routine, go ahead and write those in a permanent marker. Have a little square where the kid can check it off. And then also leave some space so you can come back with one of those vis-a-vis that you can add in, like things that are seasonal. Like, for example, if it's volleyball season, then I got to worry about my workout clothes and having my backpack for that. But if it's not volleyball season, then I don't have to worry about that, right?
Right.
So some of those, it'll give you space for some of those seasonal things too.
So I wanted to bring up here and share the chore that, well, it wasn't really, well, it's kind of a chore list and a routine list combined in one that we used. But when my kid outgrew it, I don't know what happened to it, but I liked it because it had the routine or the chore.
Yeah.
And then it broke it down into AM and then PM. And then it had like an extra 15 minutes. So normally the 15 minutes would be like, okay, I want to spend 15 minutes with mom today. Or I want to spend 15 minutes with dad today. And so we would put that down so that the
like
parent,
a wish list? Or what?
So that the parent would know, okay, you know, they want to spend time with me on Wednesday. I need to make sure that I am available on Wednesday. You know.
Kind of write it into your calendar. Definitely the more we can involve them in the planning, the better, right? And it's neat if we can honor some of those wishes that they have, for sure. Yep.
Yeah.
So let's start with nighttime routine.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if you've got a good nighttime routine, then it's going to help you have a good morning routine. And some important things is to have, to start is that nighttime routine kind of in a way needs to start about an hour before bedtime, before you actually expect them to be in the bed, right? To an hour and a half before that time.
I'm over giggling, and that is so hard. It's not like easier said than done.
Oh, for sure.
Everybody in my house is a night owl.
Uh-huh.
So it's really hard because we go to bed really late, and we've been trying to go to bed a little bit earlier. And even then it's like, one of the kids walked in last night and was like, it's too early to go to bed.
Yeah. And don't be surprised if you don't, meet some resistance and they're like, wait a minute, I still have 7 more days of summer. But trust me, if you'll help parent them and go ahead and begin to help their body and their mind and their emotions get in place for that new school year, it is going to pay off big time. And sometimes as a parent, you feel some guilt because you're like, you don't want to take those last few days of freedom. You're not taking their last few days of freedom away.
No.
You're just taking a little bit of time that's going to have really big payoff.
Yeah, actually, when you think about it, they're going to have less stress and you're going to have less stress, when school starts.
So it's going to help. And, I'm a big stickler when it comes to sleep and protecting that sleep time for the kids, right? I just really believe in it. And, experts say that if ages 6 to 12 need 9 to 12 hours of sleep. Now, sounds like a lot, but hey, it's important.
They're growing.
You're investing. It's like making $1 million investment in their success. For teens, it's 8 to 10 hours of sleep. So you kind of have to do the math on that and think, okay, if we're going to get up at 7 or if we're going to get up at 6:30, what time do we need to be in the bed, right?
Yeah.
And some kids will do better on the short end of that, the 9 hours. Some kids will need more. They need 10 or 11 hours. So you just kind of have to look at your particular kid and see what's best and what will work for your schedules. But that sleep time, it's when our body is healing, it's renewing, it's growing, and it's so, so important.
Well, it's a big brain break.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that they have that rapid eye movement. They have plenty of time to sleep.
Right. Get into that deep sleep stage. Go through the stages of sleep. So this is a big one for getting to do, a week or two ahead, right?
Wait, you talked about protecting the sleep, but what do you think about the cell phones? Where should they be?
Oh, you know how I feel about it. She knows how I feel about it. And if you've been listening, you know how I feel about it. Love the phones. Think they're, great for everybody involved with the appropriate boundaries. And one thing I'm a total freak zoid on is I really believe that phone, that iPad, that Chromebook, whatever those electronic devices are, each kid needs to bring their little stack and it needs to go into the parent's room to be charged at night. And, my suggestion, and these are only suggestions, is don't have them charge their stuff in another room because, I work with kids and I have kids. And those kids tell me, we charge ours in the kitchen or wherever it is. And those little boogers, they get up in the middle of the night when you're asleep and they go get their Chromebooks and they go get their phones and they go get their... So let's just I realize not everybody does that, but why even put the temptation there, right? Sleep is so important that you need to protect that and just take that temptation away. There's no point in it. Put it in your room and charge that is my suggestion. Yeah. And, I was thinking about, I don't ever want to talk in this little glass house, kind of mentality. there are people working, and I was one of those parents that sometimes that you don't get home until 6:00, and you want some time with that kid, and it's important. And so, it makes it tougher. It really does.
Yeah, the going to bed at 7 is not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe it. And one of the things that I had to wrap my brain around as a parent is I had to wrap my brain around that. For example, when I had a little one that was going to bed at 8, and I was getting home, at 6, that was only going to give me a couple hours with that kid, right? The most important thing in my life, I was only going to have a couple hours with. And so purposeful parenting and purposeful planning. So I made sure during that 2 hours time, the whole world revolved around that kid, right? And for example, meal planning.
Oh, gosh.
I made that happen on the weekend so that I wouldn't be taxed with having to come home, hurry up and try to get us something to do. I'd kind of do like grilling and some sheet pan meals, stuff like that on the weekends. So, and really it was such a nice relief because I didn't have to be stressed about that.
Or think about what you're eating.
Or think about it, right.
Yeah.
And we could just pull out some of those things and I would just have to reheat it, but it was tasted delicious. So if you do need to cook, then go ahead and involve the kids in that. And like, for example, one kid's making a salad, another kid is helping with something else that they can do, set the table or whatever. But if we can be a family even during those times, and I believe in dancing in the kitchen, people, turn that music up, get it loud, and pick stuff that they like to listen to. I mean, I was jamming to everything. So pick some music that they like, turn that music on, and add some levity to those chores and those, family obligations. Do a little boogie.
Yeah. Well, even, being part of the family, it's not a chore. It's being part of a family.
Right.
So it's kind of...
I'm glad you said that. Yeah.
The perception of setting the table,
right.
Making a salad, right? It's not a chore, but it's kind of like you get to do it because you belong to this family,
And how does that affect, let's talk about how that affects self-esteem. Yeah. It raises self-esteem, doesn't it? Because it shows, hey, you're a valued member of this team and we're entrusting you with this part of the situation.
It's 2 words. You belong.
I love that. Yeah, for sure. You belong. So don't be surprised if they don't get the picture. They're not supposed to get the big picture, right? But we get it. So we will do that. So another part of that nighttime routine, and this is, I think this is kind of a challenging one at my house. And
Are you talking about the brushing teeth?
No. What? Oh, well, we're not going to get into that, okay? But we're not going to out any people that maybe maybe think you're only supposed to brush your teeth once a day or something. I don't know. But
just twice a day.
Screen time, though, is going ahead and turning off those screens like 30 to 60 minutes ahead of time, right? Really important. Of course, everyone knows about the blue light and how it affects our brains. Yeah. So go ahead and turn those off. But also just the lack of stimulation. It could be something that they're watching that's funny, which of course is good. It could be something that they're watching that's a little tenseful. If we just go ahead and turn those off 30 minutes to 60 minutes ahead of time, then it gives their brain and their body and their emotions time to begin to calm down.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of time, when we are either watching TV or we're playing a game, we're disassociated. We're not really present. So, taking that time to just be,
right,
is amazing for that child. Especially, they can color, do puzzles. It could be reading time. It could be reading to the cat, to the dog. It could be reading to mom.
Right. And depending on the age, what do we see when we begin to turn those electronics off? We begin to see more of a hovering behavior. Like the kids are circling around a little bit more. They're trying to figure out how to fill up that time. So sometimes they're looking to us for entertainment or interaction.
That's what I was going to say.
And then that provides an opportunity for connection. Mm-hmm. And we want that connection every single day, right? You might take another thing about routines is having an opportunity or a time, mm-hmm. even if it's just a minute, where you purposely connect. And one example of that might be mm-hmm. sharing highs and lows. Sometimes people will incorporate that into dinner time, right? Mm-hmm. And I love captured time. I'm a believer in captured time. Yeah. And so dinner table, that's something pretty easy to do is, okay, everybody, what was a high and what was a low for the day? And mm-hmm. everybody participates, the parents included. And this builds emotional safety, and it reduces nighttime mm-hmm. anxiety. And it normalizes sharing within the family, mm-hmm. that we can talk about the good things, we can talk about the tough things, and we can do it in kind of a normal type situation. A lot of times when kids are bringing us the lows, it's when mm-hmm. they're already dysregulated, when they're already kind of feeling like they're in a crisis mode or really upset. Mm-hmm. And what this does is it moves it out of that setting to where they can go ahead and begin to process and share.
Right.
And I'm just asking you, mm-hmm. what do you think is a couple of the most important things that parents can do in that high and low, and maybe even set some norms, mm-hmm. with the family at the mm-hmm. table if they choose to do it at the dinner table?
I know for ours is the TV's off.
Okay, TV's off. Mm-hmm.
TV's off. One of the kids is setting the table. Everybody's, mm-hmm. Getting ready for dinner. And we just...
What about because let's say you have multiple kids. We have to train, right? Mm-hmm. So what about there not being a judgment? What about there being a judgment-free zone during the highs and lows?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, during dinner, it's kind of whatever discussion they want to have, we have. Mm-hmm. It's kind of their time.
Yeah. So if a kid, comes and shares, a high or a low, mm-hmm. That should be a judgment-free zone, so that we want them bringing mm-hmm. those highs and lows again and again and again. Yeah. So we're going to listen. Now, that's not to say that at some point we don't want to sometimes let them know the family standard or give them guidance.
No.
But you can still do that without being judgmental and without coming across kind of critical.
I think the table is a fun time. It's a coming together. Mm-hmm. It's if they want to talk about something, that's important, right?
Right.
They can talk about it, but it's more like, hey, I'm listening, mm-hmm. but I'm not giving advice because I'm not really sure how they're going to take it. And I want them to finish their meal.
Right.
So I'm not trying to give them advice during the table. I want them to finish eating. I want them to be able to just give me information and me to think about it.
So let me give you, mm-hmm. and I get what you're saying, and I understand the balance that you use in your life, mm-hmm. but let me give you a scenario, okay?
Yeah, give me a scenario.
So let's say Bobby is sitting at the table eating this chicken fried steak, mm-hmm. and Bobby is like, today, everybody was making fun of Sammy, and it was so funny. And I said, blah, blah, blah to Sammy, and whatever Bobby said to Sammy mm-hmm. was a put down and an embarrassment. Are you going to just let that slide and not say anything? Or are you going to give some parenting advice?
I wouldn't give parenting advice, but mm-hmm. I would question, how do you think Sammy felt? Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I would make the answers come from him, not from me.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great. So mm-hmm. let's roll with that for just a second.
Okay.
And let's go ahead and maybe give us a couple of examples of questions. Mm-hmm. So once again, we keep talking about the power of curiosity. Give me a little high five there. Power of curiosity and how important it is, and how when we bring curiosity, I'm having trouble with that word today, but anyway, it lessens the chance of judgment, doesn't it? So bring it. What are a couple of things you might say?
I would say, did you feel like you were using our family values?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know, and have him think about what, kind of see if he knows what our family values are, or if he remembers them, or even kind of, how do you think that would make you feel?
Right.
If that happened to you, if you were Sammy, how would that make you feel? You know?
I think that's a great way to approach it. I think if people leave today and they don't get anything else but that one point, I think that we hit the jackpot. Because what happens is that's with that questioning, open questioning, that leaves their brain engaged and their emotions engaged, okay? But if we come back and say, well, we don't make fun of people. What?
Shut down.
Right? That's, it's, even if they know in their heart that's true, they shut down.
Well, that would be like a guilt and shame,
Yeah.
I'm sure little Bobby would be feeling shameful that he misrepresented the family, made fun of somebody.
Right.
And now he's feeling guilty and ashamed. And I'm curious as to how would Bobby express those feelings? What would we see? Would we see him like get up from the table and start crying? And now he's mad at mom because mom made him have that feeling.
Right.
So it's really hard because when we come at kids like that, we take away their accountability.
Right.
Instead of him being accountable for it, now he's guilty and shame, but he's guilty and shame because now he's feeling this, but he's only feeling this because mom came at him that way.
So it's not a bad thing to feel guilt. It's not a bad thing to feel like I made a mistake. I missed the mark. There's some things that I want to change. But it's so much better if I can come to that idea where something happens within me where I have an aha moment or an accountability moment. And I've shared this before. That's one of my unfavorite places, okay? Because it doesn't necessarily feel good. It hurts. It makes you sad. It makes you maybe remorseful that you realize you missed the mark and that you want to change something. But yet it is so beautiful and it's so good and it's so sweet that you've realized it. So now you can begin to make a change. And so I think this whole conversation is very important today about bringing questioning, non-judgmental questioning, so that that kid or that person in your life, whoever it is, can begin to entertain those questions and sort out what are their goals, what are their values, and are their behaviors reflecting that?
Yeah.
I love that. And it's not that a kid getting angry or crying, that's supposed to happen, right? In life, that's supposed to happen. And we're not afraid of that as parents. It's not like it can't happen and we're afraid of it. Oh, I would never want my kid crying or anything like that. It's just right now we're talking about the best case scenario.
Right.
Kind of like, what we can get the most out of, right?
Right. And I mean, and if he's feeling that empathy of like, man, I shouldn't have made fun of Sammy, then he's feeling sad about,
Right.
I think it's also important to talk about, well, how can we make this right? How can you approach Sammy tomorrow?
Yeah. I love it. So another thing is kind of getting that organization piece and getting ready for the next day. Earlier you mentioned something about the night before, lay out your clothes. And that's going to work for some people. For me, I'm kind of a morning person. I know there's some people out there that are morning persons. So by the time we get through with dinner and a couple other things and get the kids in bed or whatever, I'm not doing that great. But I can do it on the weekend, like before noon, on a Saturday or Sunday. I could actually lay out for the whole week in my closet. I could just pick out 5 things and lay that out. So that might work for some families and some kids. to plan it on the weekend and get those clothes at the front of the closet. For other kids,
they could do it the night before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It depends. It depends on what kind of clothes they have. Like, they may only have 3 pairs of jeans for the week.
I was thinking about that for sure.
So they might wear the same jeans on Monday, on Friday.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
It just kind of depends.
And sometimes with me, it was, I only had like 2 pairs that I liked. It wasn't there wasn't a couple of more pairs in there
right?
that I liked. Well, when I was growing up, it was about liked.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think those are definitely things to take into consideration, right?
Yeah.
And I do want to mention, because sometimes we do go through rough times, economically, and we might not have everything that we want or everything that we want for our kids.
Yeah.
And please, if you're in that situation, there's some great opportunities. For example, there's an organization called Network Ministries. And
that's if you're in Richardson. But
yeah, in Richardson. I'm just speaking of that. That made me think of that. There's Trusted World. So there are a lot of different organizations that provide opportunities for clothing. And if you need some help in that area, check those out.
And I was going to say, now, growing up, I don't remember who my counselor was. Elementary, junior high, high school. I do not remember who my counselor was. But I feel like the counseling field in schools have changed, and they can go forward to their counselor in whatever grade they're in and let that counselor know, because the counselors have so many resources nowadays that they can help that child, get clothing. And they're not going to announce it to the world,
Right, for sure.
So reach out to the school counselor and see what they can do to help.
Yeah, let know needs, for sure.
They've got lots of resources.
So anything that you can do the night before, so laying, say, backpacks by the door. This is a really important one. Earlier I mentioned charging Chromebooks. Most kids have some type of electronic device that they use at school now. Those need to be charged at night so that your kid can be actively involved in the next day. And that's actually a big problem at school. Kids come in, their Chromebooks are not charged. So charge those at night, and then get those by the door so that we remember them, right?
I was going to say it. So their Chromebooks may not be charged, but their cell phones sure are.
Yeah. And then another ritual or routine is the hygiene ritual. And, and this can be, we're talking about kind of calming down for the night and getting ready for bed and sleep. And that hygiene can really be an important part. You want to talk a little bit about that?
I mean, I think starting it early, having, if they need help with showering or they need help with whatever, that we make that time to help them, right? And then they can kind of do their own little thing about styling their hair, unless they have, I know mine needed help because she had long hair, so just different things about getting them ready to go to bed, like even before. Maybe reading 5 pages out of a book or, just getting them ready.
I was talking about captured time, and most people don't like the potty training phase, but I love the potty training phase because that was captured time. And I would take that time and I would go in there and I would read during that time. And so I would read to my kid, during that time. And man, we got through so many books, I'm telling you. All right. And then let's talk about sleep environment.
That's hilarious.
Sleep time. So cool. If you can get that house a little cooler, that we know that's the most productive for sleep.
Their favorite pillow.
Yeah.
Or stuffy or
dark. Dark is really important for good sleep. And then quiet room, right?
Yeah. And then they wake up.
And then they wake up. Let's hit it. Let's get that morning routine down.
So I'm always told, my daughter always tells me, you didn't wake me up right.
Talk to me.
I'm like, what? I'm like, you told me wake you up at 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
So I go and I say, it's time to wake up, right? I tell her 5 more minutes. So I'm doing my thing too, because I gotta get dressed too, right? So I'm doing my thing. I come back and I notice she's not up. So I go back and I am like, at this point, I'm like, you need to get up. I'm a little bit more stern. And it's like, why are you yelling at me? I'm not yelling at you. I'm just telling you, So
we got to get it done.
Yes, we got to get done. And what I realize is that, you know what? I'm not doing the waking. I'm going to let her dad do the waking.
Okay,
that works for us.
Yeah, sometimes there are different jobs that works better for one person than the other, right?
Yeah. So
there are some there are some alarms.
Yeah, I would say this year she's doing her own alarm.
Yeah, as they age, they take on more and more responsibility, right?
Yep.
There are some alarms though that will start off at a gentle. And then as it continues, it increases in volume. And I think those are kind of nice, instead of all of a sudden,
See, I'm the type that like, when it's time for me to get up, I'm going to get up. I don't want to be lying in bed. I want to get up. That's like, to me, it's like, you might as well go ahead and get up. I mean, you're already awake. You might as well get up, right? But some people just need that time to...
Take a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, just take a minute. And that's a good time to set an intention for the day. And I, before I get out of bed, I will say, it's going to be a good day today. And I'm beginning to set that intention for that day. And I think that's a great thing to teach your kid.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and okay, so the kid's getting ready, and did you guys normally eat breakfast? Because I know eating breakfast is very important,
So as a kid growing up, and I mean, she asked the question, I'm just being honest. I'm not advising it, but I wasn't a breakfast morning person, and a lot of times I did not eat breakfast. We know that the science tells us that breakfast is really important. It's really important for kids' brain to be engaged and body to be engaged. And protein, in the morning is important, right? Some kids will be able to go to school. They'll be able to take advantage of that meal at school. It's whatever works for you guys. If you are having to fix that breakfast, again, I want to suggest maybe preparing on the weekend so that those breakfasts are already prepared. You could do yogurt and a fruit. Go ahead and have it portioned out.
Yeah.
I will do, one of my favorite things to do is I'll do a breakfast casserole, and I'll go ahead and portion it out into little containers so that all we have to do is just microwave. You can also do, a great breakfast burrito is, and like if you're using beans, then that gets that protein in. So there's some things that you can, and parents, when you get in the kitchen to do that prep for the weekend, there's nothing wrong with grabbing that kid in. That way they have a little ownership of what they want for breakfast or whatever. They can make a suggestion, but let them help prepare. Maybe they're, putting the burritos in the bag or whatever it is. But, that community of prep work, right?
Yeah, so at our house, we do breakfast sandwiches, which is just like an egg between two slices of, bread.
Right.
But I was thinking your casserole was really good the other day when you fixed it for me.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I could probably do an egg casserole and cut it up and put it and make those sandwiches ready to go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And we typically just eat it on the go. I know it's nice to be able to sit, but that's just kind of how we work.
Yeah.
So having a checklist, right, is a good thing to do. It helps hold accountable. And so you can have that routine chart that we talked about. It looks different for different kids. And this is especially helpful it's helpful for any kid, okay? But especially the kid that maybe has ADD, especially helpful for them.
That's why I really liked the schedule, and I just laminated it, but it had AM and PM, so it wouldn't be so overwhelming. So maybe 5 things in the morning,
Right.
5 things in the evening.
Yeah.
And
come up with those with your kids, as far as what do you need to do in the morning to be successful and to have all your stuff together, be ready to learn. And then what do you need to do at night to be ready to learn, to be ready to get a good night's sleep. And then, when it's time for them to leave, maybe they're leaving out the door and going to the bus stop. Maybe you're walking them to the door of the school. Maybe you're driving. The last thing you can do before that kid leaves is to send them off with a positive message. And I love that opportunity to do that. It can just be, something that you say, I believe in you.
Be kind and brave.
I had a friend that he would, and I love this, but he would tell his boys before they got out of the car, he would say, remember, do your best and let God take care of the rest. And yeah, I like that. So you're going to put your own little spin on there, but have something that you're saying to them to send them off with a positive note.
Yeah.
That you believe in them, you love them, you have confidence in them. Let's talk about another really important routine. This is huge. And that's
really huge.
It's huge. Is a study or homework station and a routine, right?
Man, that is like some of the biggest fight. That's why I'm over here. I'm like, that is like, okay, hopefully you don't fight in the morning because the homework fight can be a really big fight. I know for one of my kids, breaking down just the homework of the task when they got home really helped. I mean, we did like 10 minutes. Work 10 minutes, play 10 minutes, come back and do 10 minutes.
Right.
Yeah. And it is tedious. It feels very tedious because I'm trying to get things done.
Yeah.
And so setting a timer to remind them that, hey, you've played 10 minutes, come back in, finish up the work.
Right.
And I'm like, the work wasn't even that bad. I'm talking elementary. So
it's all age appropriate, right?
Right. So
I definitely believe in the intervals, and it just depends on how much time your kid's homework takes, and this is something that you should take off to college with you. But our brain can only stay hyper focused for so long, and then it needs a break. Our bodies need a break. We need to be able to move around a little bit, and so if you have maybe for a high school kid, maybe they're going to spend 20 or 30 minutes totally focused on that task. And then they're going to take a 10 or 15 minute break and then revisit that. You want to think about the traffic. So it's important that it be a lower traffic area or distraction, but not necessarily off in the student's room. Today there's so many kids that have the headphones that they could be in a living area, maybe off at a table or a kitchen table, so that there's some accountability and some, some watching over, right? But yet they could have the headphones on so that everything else that's going on in the house isn't necessarily an immediate distraction. If there's a TV in that room, we want to be facing away from the TV because otherwise that's going to be a constant, distraction.
Right. And for high school, I say getting a study buddy.
Oh, yeah.
A friend that really wants to study.
Right.
That you can study with.
Yeah.
Make it fun.
Right. My son utilized study groups a whole lot. It helped him be successful. One is it's a lot easier to discipline yourself when there's a community doing it. And everybody's kind of working and adds some fun to the situation. But it also allows for us to break down. You take part B, I'll take part A, or we're reviewing for a test and, we learn from one another. Right. They say that one way that you can really know if you know material is if you can then teach it to somebody else. And working in a group allows that. So that's a good thing. We want it to be a phone-free zone. Unless there's a really, really, really important reason that they need their phone for something, it needs to be phone-free. If you do have your phone, then it probably needs to have notification silence.
Well, and get them a little snack, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And if you can have the needed supplies there, that's just one less distraction that they'll have getting up and having to go and get other, pens, pencils, whatever.
Yeah. So, wow. So now they are doing homework in the evening.
I want to say one more thing about this.
Go ahead.
When you take the time to plan with your student, okay, let's get your study area, your homework area set up. That sends a very important message to them. This is important.
Oh, yeah.
This is, something that is a real value of our families because mom or dad or whoever it is taking the time to work with me. We're talking about it. We're collaborating and we're planning, and then we're carrying out that action to get that area set.
Well, and when they're planning that little space, right, they can make it theirs.
Yeah, for sure. So we talked about those major routines and planning ahead and getting started a week ahead or two ahead to get ready and get your kid in position for that. Let's talk a little bit about, we talked about how 25% of the kids experience some type of anxiety about going back to school. Yeah. And let's talk about some of the things how that anxiety might show up or.
Well, there's going to be a bellyache.
Yeah.
A meltdown, I'm going to be crying.
Right.
Easily angered. Don't talk to me. Lots of avoidance. Johnny, come here. And Johnny's like, not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Or not even acknowledging, that he hears because he doesn't want to go back to school.
And so let's talk a minute about how we want to, interact with that kid. Remember that avoidance feeds anxiety. And so we want to work to not, participate in avoidance.
Which would look like picking up a student from school if they call and say, hey, I don't want to be here.
Right.
I think making little baby steps of like, okay, well, we're using the name Johnny. If you can't make it through third period, maybe you can make it up to fifth period. If you can make it up to fifth period and then you really want me to pick you up, I'll go pick you up.
And that kind of varies depending on the situation. For example, if a kid has been making it consistently at school every day, then we're not going to start with that. We're not going to start with, but let's say that a kid has been struggling to get through the day. They've been missing some. Then, we might want to make that little adjustment so that we're still stretching them, but yet they're growing in that process. So it kind of depends on what's been going on before and, what's going on now, right?
Yeah.
But some things that we want to do is we want to acknowledge, we want to show acceptance. So we want to say, I know that you're scared.
Yeah.
Well, from what you're telling me, I know that you're scared. And that this is really hard for you. So we're going to give acceptance. We're going to show that we understand. We've got to listen and explore and be curious at first of that, though. And then we're going to come in with that confidence piece.
I know you can do it.
I know you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we're moving toward the door. We're walking to the car. We're, doing those kinds of things. So, and we're going to have a segment on.
Oh, that is awesome. I'm glad you're bringing it up.
Yeah.
It's you want to hold up the book. Hold up the book.
We're going to be
this
doing
is an amazing
episode on breaking free of child anxiety and OCD by Dr. Lebowitz. If I know that not everybody listens to things in order, but if you might check and see if that episode is already out, or if not, it will be coming up in the next week or so. So
guys, this book right here is such a good book. It is not only does Dr. Lebowitz tell you what anxiety is and how to manage it, but he gives you strategies on how to help your child we can't change other people, but we can change ourselves. And that's what I really liked about this book is that as a parent, what can I change?
Yeah.
What can I change to help my own kid when he's hurting or when she's hurting? You know, what are the things that I need to do? Because sometimes we don't know what to do, you know?
Yeah.
So I really like that book.
And let's say your kid, you know, has problematic anxiety and, you know, they are already expressing a lot of anxiousness. What you want to do is encourage some small exposures. So one, talking about school in a positive way, right there, that's a little exposure. Visiting the school if they're having a pick up the schedule or meet the teacher beforehand. Even driving by that school multiple times and looking at the school and, I guess that's where the bus stop is and those kinds of things. Those are all exposures that can really be helpful.
Go to open house, meet the teachers, you know.
And for example, you know, a lot of kids will have social anxiety. They're afraid of not having a friend or not getting along with people, those kinds of things. And so if they've had a friend last year, this is a great time to give that friend a call and see if maybe that friend can come over for a play date or come over for a movie night or meet somewhere. If they're older, maybe, you know, encourage them to meet somewhere for coffee or whatever.
Well, and you know what? I think it's really important. I was just thinking about like open house. Like that is like a golden opportunity to meet somebody else's parents.
Right.
Because nowadays you don't really know the parents, but you know, that's kind of a reaching out and getting to know who is Johnny's parents.
Right.
You know? So.
Another thing, you know, in terms of dealing with emotions, it's really important to have some basic tools in our toolkit, right? For the whole family. And parents can model this. When we were talking about nighttime routine, I forgot to mention this. Dr. Amen out of California, who is a neurologist, you know, one of the things he suggests, and I love this, I use this, but he suggests every night before you go to sleep, you can either write it down, you can speak it, the kid could say it to the parent or whatever, but maybe talk about or mention 3 things that went well that day. So we're beginning to train our brain. Our brain has this default, and it's how we've helped survive, but it moves to the negative. And so we're safe. We're living in a safe environment. Things are going well. There's no need for that brain to be on that constant looking for the negative. And so we want to train it to look for the positive. What are 3 things that went well for you today? End on that note before you go to sleep. Really powerful.
Well, and you get to know like more of your kids' day, you know?
For sure.
So that's a win-win.
Definitely. If you notice that there's, you know, worrying going on, that circular type of worrying, then instead of participating in that worry and kind of help feeding that worry, we can say, hey, we're gonna give 5 minutes for this worry. And then we're going to move on. We're either going to start doing what we were doing before the worry occurred, or we're going to do something new. And then let's talk about some things that they can do and have in their everyday toolbox that builds emotional regulation, that builds, you know, resilience when those tough times do come emotionally.
Now I was going to say, if your student is suffering with anxiety, right? That doesn't mean that they have anxiety disorder. It just means that they are suffering with some of the symptoms of anxiety. But still, they may need a little bit of help just to get through the threshold to get into, you know, school. So getting help outside with like a private therapist, counselor would be great. You know, also, I'm going to go back and touching base with the school counselor as far as, you know what? This is the behavior I've been seeing. And if you see any, you know, let me know. And so that way, if Johnny has a hard time during the school day, that the counselor already knows and they can feel even more comfortable to call you and
kind of
say,
let you know what's going on.
Yeah, and say, hey, you know what, today they did great. You know, it was only one class that they had a really tough time going in, and we, you know, figured out that this was what was going on.
Right,
you know?
right. And a big part of it is just, allowing your kid the support and space to figure it out.
Yeah. Well,
and not to rescue.
Right. But also building a village. Giving them those resources that they need. So they don't always have to come to mom.
Right.
Their math teacher might be a wonderful human being and say, you know what, Johnny, I noticed this. And then that person gets in their village. And so we're only building up little Johnny.
Yeah. So some things that they can have in their toolbox is some deep breathing skills that they use on a daily basis. I just am a firm believer in it. I love box breathing. If you don't know how to do that, just do a search on the internet. It'll come up. And that's something, it's powerful when we not try to put a Band-Aid on when we're already escalating, but just use it as a part of our daily routine. And then they naturally will go to it when they begin to feel that anxiety become a little uncomfortable, then they will seek it out and do it on their own. It's something that they can do sitting in a classroom or anything else.
I always tell the kids, pretend you're smelling flowers through your nose, so just inhaling. And then as you exhale, open your mouth and just let out all the air that you have. And so that way it's kind of like letting them know that, one, they can smell flowers or they can blow bubbles as they're, breathing out.
One thing that really helped me with the breathing process is when I read something and it clued me in, like imagine or try to feel the breath, flowing through your nasal system down into your throat. And so, if you just do that right now out there, if you take a slow, deep breath, you will actually feel the air traveling through. And that helps you to be mindful in the moment. It's really excellent. So give it a try. Another thing is going back to those positive affirmations, coloring, drawing. Sometimes maybe putting some lavender on our hands, some lotion. So there are different things that can be a calming kind of stress buster for us, right?
Yeah.
Play's one of the biggest ones.
Play's a great one.
Advocate for play and physical activity. So these different routines that we've had, one of the most important one is the parent connection, right?
Yes.
And we've talked about morning routine. We've talked about night routine. We've talked about homework routine. And hopefully you've gotten something that's going to help you as you begin to get your kid ready for school.
Yes.
And it's going to reduce some of that drama.
Yeah. And, Annette, I was thinking that we could put a few tips on our Heart to Heart Instagram.
Yeah.
So we are at Heart to Heart Collaborations on Instagram. If you want to follow us for a couple of tips for back to school.
Facebook, same Heart to Heart Collaborations, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, we thank you so much for being a part with us today. And
own your wellness.
Elevate your life. The content presented in this episode or any others should not be considered therapy and is not prescriptive. If you have questions or concerns about mental health, contact your primary care physician or local mental health provider. The opinions expressed are solely ours and are not representative of our employers or coworkers.